Welcome to Mindfulness Manufacturing, the podcast for and with manufacturing leaders. I'm Mike and this is Trevor. We want you to join us on our journey as we help you gain new insights, moments of clarity, and self-awareness.
Hey, if you're willing to step outside of your comfort zone and uncover new perspectives to make your next day better, grab your coffee and let's go. Hey, welcome. I am excited and thank you for tuning in for episode 1. Yeah, Mike, can't believe we're here starting our first podcast here.
Amazing. So excited. We talked about building this platform through which we build a community for raw conversations, raw and candid conversations about what's going on between the four walls, often driven by a culture.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot, and this idea of a platform came up of, you and I just getting different people on here and talking about those real problems.
Yeah, and the beauty of this whole podcast is several years ago, we walked in the shoes that you are walking in today. We can relate to so many different problems you're faced with. Some of the learnings, basically, we looked over the last 3 years, and the two of us have really partnered up in different synergies. And really, we brought down our passion to what we're doing now here today. The universe has called us to what we need to do to assist. Our focus, always looking towards the owners and the general managers. And we're also certified in the most intelligent topics that we'll get into over the course of time.
I can remember in 2006, when I, first met you, Mike, and we had that instant connection just on how we viewed, our leaders, our teams, how we worked together. And there was that synergy of, this is what respect looks like. This is how you run a leadership meeting, and this is, we work for them.
I can remember, like yesterday, our offsets were so well matched. I mean, that you had skills, abilities, and leadership qualities that I didn't have. I had those that you didn't have, and together we made such a good team.
Yeah, you start out making mistakes and, trying to do the right things. And we struggled for a few years. I mean, we were in high volume frame manufacturing from beginning to the end. And, what we went through and some of those experiences of, how do you get that discretionary effort out of your employees? And, we went through some crazy times. And we saw that transition of going from good to great. And, those are just good times to reminisce. We're definitely going to get some people on the podcast that were a part of that and part of great things moving forward.
Yeah, this is exciting. I think back to really understanding the leadership team and how we could actually support and guide the leaders that work directly with us. And for years, we missed that mark. We made a lot of mistakes, but we realized that to really give purpose, it wasn't just building truck frames. It was investing in the leadership that had an effect on the people. That was the most enjoyable time, was actually working with the leadership team.
Yes, I mean, now we're in a different time and age. I would have loved to have had a podcast to, listen to on the way to work, or maybe just, struggling in a certain moment. And that's why, this isn't, a skill set, training podcast. This is just, what's in the way today? What are the things that we just don't know what to do to take those next steps? And just, the curiosity of, manufacturing and turnover and chaos and stress and burnout. I mean, it's there. It's real. It's alive. It exists today. We see it. I mean, I'm in Kentucky. Mike, you're in Ontario. We cover grounds in between, and there's consistency. There's clear consistency, and hey, there are some manufacturing plants out there, and we're going to get some of them on here too that got things figured out, and it's making that hard decision today or making a hard decision later, but they're all faced with it, and we want to make this a better place.
Absolutely. Yeah, we see similar problems from one plant to the next. That's something that's very common, and we will talk to people that are doing something in the manufacturing world that we can learn from. So later on, we're going to provide you with ways to submit topics that you'd like to for us to explore or discuss.
Yeah, this is going to be dynamic. This is a journey that definitely we want this audience to share with us, and it'll evolve. Really, it's a value add for you, right? Why are you tuning in? Why are you going to come back next week? So it's just providing some value and some context and content that, you can use, and you can do something different today or tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah, well put.
And even just, learn so much over the last, it's since 2016 that we embarked down this road. And, one of the ones that I think of, Mike, that we talk about a lot is, we run into, different plants and frustrated leaders. And why are they frustrated? Well, it might be talking to a general manager, it might be talking to an owner, or it might be just talking to one of the managers. And it's like, we can't get our people to do this. I talked to Bob, and, I've told him he needs to go out there and do this, and he's not doing this, and I'm frustrated because we're not getting the results, and I don't understand. And this is a performance issue, and Bob's going to have a problem, if he doesn't change his ways. And Mike, you know the next part of this story.
Absolutely. And the question we would ask the leader at that point, once they vented their frustration, what did they say when you asked them? What do you think the answer to that question is? I haven't spoken to them yet.
Yeah, I mean, and if it is, well, they should know better. Or, I mentioned it to him at the meeting or when we were walking through. But when you really sit down and you say, when you got really curious and you sat down one-on-one and acquired an environment with the intention of just really helping Bob, see the problem, well, it's busy. I haven't had time to do that.
Yeah, it's a great point. The one thing the leader that seems to be common with this type of a question is they think they're filling in the details or asking the person, and they're really not. They're not direct or specific, really understanding the issue at hand. So there's a definite need when we go through these types of situations to try and help that leader to build the courage and confidence to actually ask the person, what's driving the behavior? How can I help you? Where can I coach you?
And when you look at some of the great leaders in manufacturing, technical, smart, innovative, they got there to these high-level positions. These are smart women and men, and they're motivated, and they're hardworking, and they're good people. But somewhere along that journey for them, they just never, got that practice of how do you have that difficult conversation? How do you increase that self-awareness of yourself? And if you're coaching somebody, telling them what they're doing wrong is not the same as coaching them and getting them to see it for themselves, right? And that's really the trick. And it comes with practice. And we just find that, there's just some very powerful people in very influential positions that just aren't exercising that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you went back 20, 25 years ago when we first started down this road of manufacturing, the days of the leader dictating and telling people what to do are long gone. Long gone. It's through asking questions, providing guidance, teaching and training, and coaching.
Yeah, and sometimes down the road we get fortunate enough to tie in with people, and I look back at my career and I know that I was fortunate to work with a supervisor that just was really good at this. I mean, he was high in emotional intelligence, and I remember him saying, Trevor, it's just a matter of sitting the two people in the room, and you just got to talk about the real problems. Like, you just got to talk openly. And, we learned a lot of things. Mike, you and I sat with many meetings with different leaders to really help elevate them and, make them a different learning for them and see it from a different perspective.
Yeah, for some of the leaders maybe listening to this podcast, we hope you are, you can remember the role playing that we used to do and the situations we would put you in. And at first, how uncomfortable was that? But as time moved on and we were consistent, the learnings became evident. The courage was built, the confidence to actually work with the people, the coach to deal with situations came to the forefront real quick, which was great. I can remember how satisfying sitting with different leaders and having those conversations and really understanding how do we help them through these difficult times? How do they get people engaged? What's the purpose of coming into work every day? What part does the leader play in that? All part of taking a leadership position, which worked out great for us.
Yeah, and
it really did.
The one thing that we've learned in the last couple of years, is the whole emotional intelligence aspect. We've both gotten certified with different groups and really embraced this. And that whole foundation of self-awareness, and that's really the foundation of emotional intelligence, how we show up. And that is just that missing element that I think that this is going to evolve into many different conversations. But, if we don't tap into, who that individual is, and so they truly understand how they come across, and their ability to influence others. You can never underestimate, no matter what your position is, the amount of influence your words, your actions, your facial expressions. It's all so powerful, and it's not intentional, but we just don't see it. And unless it's like anything else, if you don't practice it, if you're not aware of it, it's not going to be different. And if you want a different outcome, you got to have a different input and a different perspective. And that's some of the exciting stuff that we're going to talk about on this podcast.
Right, exactly. I look back in our career and looking at the self-awareness piece and the emotional intelligence and how we didn't have any clue of what that looked like. We can relate to some of the leaders today that don't go down the road of EI, maybe don't understand the self-awareness piece. And through these podcasts, that's the great thing about this, is we're going to help, break through those different insights, providing different ways or different handlings of people and what do you do from a self-awareness side. I think that's great. If we knew this 5 or 10 years ago, we could have provided that type of assistance back then. But today we've learned so much in the last few years around emotional intelligence. It's going to be a pleasure to provide that to people that are tuning in.
And I always like the comparison to the gym, right? You go in there and you lift weights for 2 hours. You come home, you look at your body. It's not a lot different. And, the journey that we're on is very similar. You don't show up tomorrow, being more aware and engaging more leaders and, becoming a more confident, competent person leading your team. But I tell you, a little bit each day, you start to see a difference. 3 months at the gym, 3 months of, putting some effort into your own personal development, you're going to start to see changes. And you're going to start to separate yourself. And this community is one that we want to do this together.
Yeah, that's the same as in your workplace. Consistency is key. Doing something once, thinking it's going to stick, really doesn't happen. We've seen that several times years and years ago, where if you have a structure, it drives behavior, it gets a good result. A structure that works, a favorable structure.
And I think if I look at some commonalities on the places that we work together on, is discipline. It's just, when the pressure isn't there, when we have a good amount of parts and the quality is not an issue, we can make good decisions. But I tell you, when you got no inventory and you have quality issues and the customer's calling, are you still making the same decision? Are you still staying on course? Are you still having your biweekly safety meeting? Or are you still taking the time at your kickoff meeting to make sure that all the team members have the information that you need for the day? I mean, that's when we get tested to say, are we really committed to this culture? Because culture is defined in those moments. And it's a consistency, I agree. But it's something that you have to show day in and day out, and that's not easy. It's like going to the gym. There's lots of good reasons to find out why we're not going to go to the gym next week, because there's lots of other better things to do. And it's the same thing with the commitment of the development and your culture.
Yeah, I can think back to years ago when had one person working with me, and he said, you wear your emotions all over your sleeve, and I didn't really understand that term. And we got in the heyday of launching programs. And anybody chiming into the podcast is work manufacturing. Program launches are stressful. And I can remember it was like a roller coaster for me and not realizing, not being self-aware. And one leader said to me, your emotions are on your sleeve. It took me a minute to understand that. And it was a checkpoint. How do you work through a stressful time and still keep your wits about you, still be able to be above the noise, still be able to make good decisions, not get caught in the weeds or the chaos? And those are the things we're going to talk about in the podcast as time moves on.
And just so everybody understands, Mike and I were both in positions where, we had a company that, we worked at and is a good place and great people. But for some reason, the universe drew us out here. There's a need out here. And there's a higher calling, and this podcast just becomes a different area to exercise that. So what we learn is that We can't just go out there and teach supervisors. If the guy or the girl at the top isn't bought in, if they're not walking the talk, and you really want to change that organization, we start there. We work with the owner, we work with the general manager, and we cascade that through the organization. And that's how you make a sustaining change. And this whole platform of emotional intelligence, it's going to evolve.
Yeah, so you think about the podcast, please subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. And the reason for it, you get a notification of when the next one's coming out. So go ahead and subscribe. We would enjoy if you did that. And share it with your colleagues. Tell your friends, tell your colleagues what we're doing here, and get them to subscribe as well. We'd appreciate it. Look for our next episode in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, and this is going to be something that we're going to grow based on your feedback. I only started listening to podcasts a couple of years ago. Not really understanding. Hey, when you subscribe, does that mean that I'm going to get all kinds of emails and I'm going to have to end up paying something? No, it's the landscape is changing in the fact of we get better the more we share the information, right? They're the transparency of just, hey, there is no special trick, but there is an evolving, conversation which helps us all develop together and we learn from each other. And the podcast is just a great platform. So by subscribing, I like it because it reminds me that something is coming out again. It downloads it sometimes before I get in the car, and it's just a great reminder. So that's how you can help. Yeah, text it to a friend and someone that might enjoy this, and it's gonna be exciting, Mike.
Yeah. So thanks. We're looking forward to seeing you in the future weeks, in a couple weeks' time.
Thanks, guys.
Talk soon. Hey guys, thanks for taking the time and joining us today. We had so much fun. Please remember to subscribe. It's free. Share it with colleagues. Look for our next episode in a couple weeks.
If you want to drive results, the first step is realizing how you show up.
That's the essence of mindfulness in manufacturing.